Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Jenny. I'm from Jenny Card Designs. My YouTube channel contains content that is intended to share paper crafting, tutorials, and inspiration with all of you. I hope that you enjoy. So I had been fiddling with an idea for creating your own stencils. So today's video I'm going to show you how I created some of my very own stencils. So I've got some dies here along with a piece of vellum and a laminating pouch. So I've got my laminator on the left hand side and my Gemini Junior die cutting machine on the right. So I'm going to slip this piece of vellum into my laminating pouch and run that through my laminator. So now we've got a slick surface that's kind of a little transparent as well. You could probably skip the vellum step if you don't have any vellum, or you could just use a piece of acetate in place of this, but I liked this result the best. So what I've done is I've trimmed off the excess off my laminating pouch and then cut the sheet into half to create two stencil panels. And then I just used a ruler to mark the center of this stencil so that I can add my circle die right in the middle of this stencil, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine and get that circle cut out, and then I like to run it back through the laminator again just to make sure that everything is sealed up and there are no rough edges. I'm not sure if this helps any, but I like to do it. So I'm going to grab a second circle die, which is just a little bit smaller than the first one that I used. I'm just going to clean up those marks that I made, and they wipe off nice and easy. And I'm going to grab a few pieces of cardstock here, and I'll tape my cardstock to the back of my new stencil. And I'm going to grab some Distress Oxide ink because I think it blends the best. So for the purposes of this video, I'm using some nice bright colors so that you can really see what I'm doing. So I've got some cracked pistachio Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to ink up the center of my circle. So now we've got an awesome mask that we can reuse over and over and over again, and we've created a focal point on the center of this card panel. Now for the second stencil, it's just a little bit smaller, so we can create a layer. If you want to create some cool interest in your cards, this is a great way to do it. So I'm going to ink up with some Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide ink. And look how cool that is. So I still have that cracked pistachio border with Mermaid Lagoon in the center. I just think it's really neat. It gives a really crisp result. So now the negative piece, we won't throw that away because that's useful as well. So I just tape that down and I grab some worn lipstick ink, and I'm going to ink up this whole panel with my worn lipstick. We can lift up that mask and bang. Beautiful crisp white circle ready to put your image or a greeting or anything you want. I think it's really fun. Just a few supplies, you can create some really cool stencils using any supplies in your stash. So for my next stencil, I tried to do some creative partial die cutting, but it didn't work out for me. I really tried, and all I did was chew up my stencil and make a big mess. So I decided to go ahead and take some of my cloud dies and trace them instead, because I could handle this. This was a lot easier than trying to position cloud dies all around. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a bunch of fluffy cloud edges all around this piece of my stencil. I use multiple different cloud dies that I have to create a variation of different cloud edges. And then I just went through with my scissors and slowly trimmed out, making sure that I didn't get any jagged edges. And I'll run that back through my laminator as I did previously, just to make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I'll take that Mermaid Lagoon ink, and I'm just going to ever so slightly just brush off the edge of my stencil, and we're going to create some really awesome cloud layers in the background. And the best part about this stencil is you can move it around, and it's not going to be the same thing over and over again. So you've got 4 sides, and then you can flip it over and you've got 4 reverse sides. So I think it just gives you an endless possibility of clouds, and it didn't really take much. So if you don't have cloud dies for this, you could just cut out hand-drawn clouds. I mean, there's nothing to it really. So I think it's pretty fun, and the stencil cleans up nice and easy, and we can save that and use it over and over and over again, which I think is just awesome. I always wanted one of these cloud stencils, and now I have one. So now I'm going to show you another way to create a stencil, which is by far, I think, is just the coolest. I grabbed one of my favorite stamp sets, the big Hello stamp set, and I'm grabbing some of the dies for the 2 flowers and the 2 leaves. I'll tape those dies down to my stencil and run it through my die cutting machine. I'm going to take my ink tool and I'm going to ink up very carefully. I'm going to ink up the inside of this stencil, and then I'm going to move it around and ink it up in a few different spots and use the big flower and the small flower. And then I'm going to grab the leaves and I'm going to put a few leaves in there. Now you just have to be a little bit more careful because these stencils are a lot smaller and I'm using some larger tools and I don't want to kind of mess up my whole paper, but this is just a sample just to kind of show you. So I'm going to get those 3 leaves inked up, and then I'm going to take a darker color Distress Oxide, and this is Picked Raspberry, and I'm going to stamp that flower right over top of my little inked up background, and it creates the coolest shadow layer in behind. So it's like 2-step stamping, but without a second layer of stamp. It's so cool, and I really had fun making this design. When it all came together, I was really thrilled with the results. So here I'm using Evergreen Bough, and I'm going to stamp the leaves. It doesn't even have to be perfect. You just land right over top of that ink, and it looks awesome. So I just finished it off with the sentiment from the same stamp set that says I've been missing you, and I just used that Evergreen Bough ink, and what a beautiful card panel. And it was so simple and easy. Here's a close-up look at what that shadow layer looks like. Let's recap what we've done today. So we've got the stamp stencils. And these are using the coordinating dies, and you can do this for any of your stamps. That's the coolest part about it. If you have any coordinating die sets that are images similar to this, that give you a little bit of shadow around the flower or image, then you can create stencils for all of your stamp sets, which is just, it's amazing to be able to stretch your supplies like that. So, and I'm just going to store all of these little stencils, the positive and the negative pieces, in case I decide to come up with some super duper awesome designs for those extra pieces. And I'll put them inside of my stamp pocket, and then I'm going to slide that in the back of my stamp set so that I have it with my stamp set for future whenever I want to use it. And then next we've got the cloud stencil. I kind of filled in the bottom here because I messed it all up and I did that off screen, but this was a really fun design. I love this cloud. This one's one of my favorites. I really like the versatility of it and how it can create such a magical background and so much interest in the background of your card with just little effort. Like I said before, you don't need cloud dies to be able to do this. So here's my stencil book, and this is where I'm going to store this stencil. I'll slip this into my stencil book with the rest of my stencils, and I am 100% positive that you're going to see this stencil a lot because it's going to be one of my most used stencils of all time for sure. So the next one we have is our masking stencils. You can create any mask stencil with any of your dies. You can use the negative pieces as well for ink blending to create bubbles or geometrical patterns. And there's so much you can do with these, and you don't have to buy anything else. So that's the coolest part about all of this. So just some acetate or a laminating pouch and some vellum. The possibilities are as endless as your stash of dies. So that's so amazing. I think it's really fun. You could even take a single balloon die and cut out a bunch of balloons and ink blend the background and have a beautiful birthday background. You could just imagine how far you can go with this technique. So I had so much fun creating these stencils today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit and had some fun along the way, and maybe take some crafty ideas to your craft room and see what you can come up with. So thank you so much for spending time with me here today. I appreciate all of the support. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't followed my channel already. Coming up on screen are a few videos that I think you may enjoy. Have yourself a lovely day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!